Today we're visiting beautiful Bells Bend Farms, where they do a lot of gardening and have a CSA. On our farm, we don't use a lot of plastic. We don't have plastic hoop houses. We don't have any plastic drip irrigation, and we don't use the plastic mulches that are so commonly used nowadays. Instead, we rely on traditional farming methods, such as gentle tillage and soil surface cultivation. We like to grow lots of cover crops like this beautiful purple hairy vetch. And of course, we make lots of biodynamic compost to put on our fields too. But there is one plastic product that we do use, and it's a polyspun row cover that we use to help extend our seasons. On our farm, we use the row covers in the fall to cover our kale and cabbages and spinach, and it keeps the plants from freezing. They have heavier claws and lighter claws. The heavier ones can give you up to 6 to 8 degrees of frost protection, which means that if it's 25 degrees outside, your plants underneath there may not get to below 32. So the lighter ones then only give you 2 to 4 degrees of frost protection, but they let in more light. So they would let in maybe 85% light, whereas the heavier ones might only let in 70% light. So that's a trade-off there. So these brassicas were grown in the spring under the row cover, and let's look under here and see what we can find. Wow, look at those cabbages there. The floating row cover keeps the hard pounding rain from hitting the soil as hard, so the soil stays a little softer and doesn't form that crust and caking as much as when it's exposed directly to the rainstorm. So this row covers warms the soil up and gives us that head start in the spring, so we can get into our gardens a couple of weeks early. And you know, gardeners are really anxious after a long cold winter to get out in our gardens, and so the row covers give us a really nice little head start, get some things in early. This is a dwarf curly kale, probably Scotch. There's a radish they've got started early, and here's some lettuce. And this is cilantro. Well, it's already bolting up and going to seed. The cilantro plant will make a seed that's called coriander. Another use for the row covers is insect protection. When we cover our cabbages with the row covers and seal it up with the dirt, then those pesky cabbage moths, those white little moths that fly around, can't lay their eggs on your cabbage leaves and make the cabbage loopers, which put holes in them. Any gardener that's tried to grow eggplants has had problems with that pesky flea beetle. It will make lace out of an eggplant leaf. You can use the floating row covers to keep the flea beetles off of your eggplants. Here they've just planted these eggplants, and we're putting the row cover down and sealing it up with the dirt. Now when the eggplants start to flower, we're going to want insects on our eggplants because we need bees and pollinators to get on the flowers to make the fruits. Backyard gardeners love to put hoops over their raised beds, and maybe these are made from some plastic conduit, and you put the row cover over that hoop and you can garden all winter long. We use sandbags to hold the edges of the row covers down. Here they're using clumps of the soil that's right next to it. I've used rocks and old boards, or just about anything I can find, to hold it down to keep the wind from blowing it off. There are several grades of this row cover, and the cheaper ones will be lighter. They'll let in more air, but they won't last as long, and they'll tend to get these tears in them quicker than a more expensive, heavier duty row cover. There are even row covers that have threads, and they're thatched, much like modern day tenting material, and that really helps it keep from ripping and tearing. But of course those will be more pricey. A reason I don't like plastic is because I never know what to do with it after I'm done with it. So plastic is found now everywhere on the earth. There's a whole lot of it in the oceans, and it's just kind of trashy. So when you do use a row cover and it starts to rip, it's your kind of job to pick up these little pieces and dispose of them properly. The floating row cover is also good to keep the frost off your strawberry patch. So although we don't use a lot of plastic at our place, these row covers are really handy to extend our seasons a little bit and keep the insects off. It's just, you know, we have to be careful with them when we're done with them so they don't end up all over the place and find their way into the appropriate disposal.
For inspiring garden tours, growing tips, and garden projects, visit our website at volunteergardener.org or on YouTube at the Volunteer Gardener channel, and like us on Facebook.